Hello, my friends. Katie Day down here in Houston, Texas, here with Stephen Kent Mahomes for another episode of the Real Advice Podcast. I am super excited to greet this week's guest. He's an okay guy, a badass realtor. He's a father, and he is a dog dad to two pups, one of which is Noodle's cousin, Turner. Turner is actually my favorite thing other than Eileen about the Knight family, but I'm kind of losing my train of thought here. In addition to all of this, he's also a top producing real estate agent, absolutely killing it on YouTube. Despite being from California and living in Austin, Texas, I am excited to dig in with our guest today. Please join me in welcoming someone that I am sad to call a friend, Jeremy Knight.
Hello, how's it going?
That was an epic intro, Jeremy.
Yeah,
Did that fill your bucket?
Yeah.
How did that make you feel, Jeremy?
All those wonderful things you said about me, I just love it.
Here's the thing: is if I were to be like, this guy, whatever, like you would be like, oh man, she's not giving me a hard time. Is something wrong? Or is she mad at me?
Yeah. Yeah, you got to keep my ego down. My head is too big for this screen as it is. So you definitely have to keep me from getting too big of a head. So I appreciate that.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Jerry, I am excited for you to be here today. This has been a long time coming. I'm glad we were able to nail you down for a time and spend some time together.
Well, I'm glad, all those text messages to you like, hey, when am I going to come on? Like, hey, is it time? Hey, I'm wearing my favorite underwear today. It's a great day to do a podcast. So I'm excited that you finally brought me on.
Well, I'm eagerly anticipating that this is going to be the world's most okayest podcast. So let's get started, Jeremy. So for the very few people on this planet who don't know who you are, Jeremy, walk us through, just a quick little synopsis of kind of how you got your start into real estate, why real estate, and where you're at right now in real estate.
Yeah, so I actually got my broker's license in California, sold nothing, and then moved to Austin where I knew no one. And so when I started real estate, I started just cold calling constantly. That's all I did every day, cold calling. And I made a pretty good career out of it the first year. And then as most people find, cold calling is really not a lot of fun. So I started trying to figure out different ways to continue, getting business. And so, we were producing. So my wife joined my team the next year. My first year in real estate, I did like 3.5 million. Then, we together did almost like 12, and we were consistently around 14, 15 million a year. This last year, I really started utilizing YouTube as my lead generating source and pretty much my only generating source. And we went from doing, 12 to 14 a year to doing last year we wrote 30 million. So far in 2021, I think we're already under contract like 36, 37 million. So we're on track to hit our goal of 50 million this year, just Eileen and I. I do have a couple team members that are in my downline at Real that I send a ton of business. So, I send them. So, if you don't count that, it's probably about another 10 to 15 million with team members that I don't really necessarily count in our production.
Wow. Amazing. Congratulations. That's pretty phenomenal. And being able to identify early on that, I'm going to kind of really hedge on YouTube as kind of the platform to generate leads. What great foresight you had, because I know there's a lot of realtors, me included, who struggle on that platform, right? It's not a very friendly or forgiving platform like some of the other, like Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah. YouTube's one of those things that it takes a little time to understand what the analytics want, understand how to cultivate an audience. Facebook's a great place to put video and utilize video because you can do targeted ads. But I have like alligator arms, so I'm really, really cheap. And so I hate spending money on stuff. So when it comes to ads, it drives me crazy to go, oh, I spent $1,000 this month on ads, or, I spent $1,000 on Zillow leads. So I was not about that. And so I was trying to find the cheapest way to actually, create content that people would want. And so YouTube's one of those places where it's a hard grind for 6, 7, 8 months. And then all of a sudden you start seeing a little bit of movement, and all of a sudden the leads start coming in. I always tell people this: once you get to 1,000 subscribers on your channel, it's time to hire an assistant and hire an editor, because it gets so hard to actually continue to produce content at that point, because you're really busy at that point.
So I really want to dig into YouTube. And I think we'll probably spend the majority of this episode talking about YouTube, just because I know it has been something that's been a huge driver for you. But I guess first I kind of want to take a step back and like talk about your real estate career as a whole. So like you got into it, then your wife did. So how did that come about? How is it kind of working together? Like, so do you guys, because I also work with a spouse, right? And like, so people are like, oh my God, I don't know how you do it, right? How does your guys setup work?
It's being a husband-wife real estate team definitely has a lot of pros and definitely a lot of cons. So I was about 7 or 8 months into real estate. I was at that point, all I was doing was calling every day. And my wife was actually selling life insurance at the time. And all she did was sit on the phone and make calls all day. Like literally her office, that's all she did. So I was like, you know what? I think you're better served joining me and my real estate team and spending, instead of 8 hours a day, let's spend 4 hours a day of you calling leads and going through calling people. And so we made that switch about almost a year in. And then, I would say the first 3 years in real estate for us were an absolute grind. I made no money my first year, even doing like 3.5 million. I made no money. My second year, I started growing a team. I almost went broke. Like literally, like I looked at the line item and like how much we made and how much we spent the second year. And I was like, something has to change here. So, the benefits of having a husband-wife team and how we work it is I do pretty much all the marketing, obviously all the YouTube stuff. My wife works and does a lot of the, she pretty much works with almost all of our buyers. I probably work about 25% of our buyers. I usually work with more of our like high net wealth clients or our investor clients. And Eileen pretty much works with everybody else. And so it's worked out really well in that regard. I mean, there's a ton of challenges with working with your spouse, because my vision of what my real estate team was going to be, well, we're going to have 25 agents. We're going to have all of this stuff. And then once my wife started, it started becoming our team and not necessarily my team. And I always tell people this joke, when it comes to Eileen and I'm the show, she's the dough. So my real estate career would be nothing without her. So she deserves a ton of credit for putting up with me
in both real estate and life. So what advice would you give to someone like looking to get into business with their spouse, or similar to like what you did, what I did, like, hey, this is going all right, or hey, this is, going, let's do this together. Right. What advice would you give someone?
I would, number one, you're going to have to set, I would say there's 2 key things to it. Number one, set your who's doing what and who is in charge of what, and separate those things and make sure there's a very clear line of what those are. Secondly, I would set balance, where at this time we no longer talk about real estate. At this time, there's no real estate conversations happening. That's something we still struggle with. And I'm sure it's something every real estate couple struggles with. You're talking about real estate at 11 o'clock at night. You've done podcasts all day. You've done meetings with clients. You've done all day is real estate, and at 11:30 at night, you're talking about real estate. And it's a great way to burn out and hate the business. So try to set boundaries that way and absolutely delineate who's doing what, because once you start crossing paths and doing stuff like this, is why for a long time, I did not help buyers at all, but we got so busy and so heavy with buyers because of the YouTube channel that I had to kind of step in and help, and then we hired more people, and then we started passing off a lot of those leads. So definitely set boundaries.
I think that's great insight. And I know that I flirted with the idea of potentially asking my wife. I didn't ever ask her, but flirting with the idea of asking my wife to join. And that was just purely out of like the fact that we were growing, but I could identify it myself. I have a hard time shutting off. As I know, Katie knows, and I was worried about that concept of real estate essentially like infiltrating every single conversation of every single second of the day.
That's
and
hard. Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's
Like,
the worst. I mean,
yeah,
you're trying to enjoy Sunday lunch, and it's like, oh, this client's texting me, and you're like, I don't want to hear about your client. I'm gonna keep my brain focused on all this beautifulness, and it's like, okay, now I'm sucked into your client's
yeah,
drama. You know, not every client's drama, but I mean, just like, you know, oh, last minute this came up, so now
Yeah.
we got to fix this. It's like, oh crap, there goes our Sunday.
Well, and it's never like both of, like, at least for me, it's never both of us at the same time, right? Like Friday
Mm.
date night, I'm the one that's like, oh my God, we need to talk about like our policy and procedures manual.
I
You
hate
know, that's
that.
like sexy dinner
God.
talk, right? And then like Ryan, like Saturday, you know, at breakfast is like, oh, did you follow up with so and so on, you know, the whatever? So it's like it's never, we're never on the same page with that. It's like one of us is
Mm.
trying to like relax and the other one's like, can we just chill? So
I think that's the thing. Like, you know, I go through times where I'm like, God, I'm so burnt out right now. I don't even want to think about real estate. And that's part of the problem too. I mean, if you run a team, I'm sure it's very similar because you're constantly going to have team members texting you or calling you, or you have some accountability over people. But it's that moment where I want to just relax. I don't want to think about real estate. And then your significant other drops in like, hey, by the way, I have a closing tomorrow. I got to get a basket, and the appraisal's not in. It's like,
well, you don't have a closing door.
yeah,
But, you know.
exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
That's wild.
So prior to YouTube, you said you were calling, like
Yeah.
cold calling expireds, first
Yeah.
time owners. What were everything? What was kind of your lead gen looking like then?
Yeah. I would say I was not good at anything specifically, but I was mediocre at best at everything.
Okay.
I tried calling for sale by owners, and I hate for sale by owners. Not every for sale by owner is bad, but you're constantly going to run into the overpriced, and I hate realtors. And it's kind of hard for me to, like, when somebody hates you, you have to put on that extra like layer of cheese to like get them to like you. Like when we have our conversations, Katie. And so
Yeah, 100%. I'm just trying to figure out how long we have to keep you on here before I can hop off. And it's
Yeah,
acceptable,
exactly.
but you know.
But I did it all. I mean, I did for sale by owners, expired. My biggest traction, I don't even know if they do it anymore. But Zillow did those make me moves. That
Mm.
was
Love 'em,
like
yeah.
my bread and butter for a while, because those people were always like 3 months out from listing. I'd call them and call them and call them. And next thing you know, we had a listing. So make me moves were by far my favorite. Shout out to anybody calling make me moves.
That's amazing. And then at what point, Jeremy, did you, I guess, kind of have the insight or / foresight to want to grow a team? Was it a part of the vision, or did it come out of like necessity? Like you were getting so busy with the leads coming through, like obviously through YouTube, you're like, we need help.
Yeah. I tried growing a team my second year, and it was good and bad. I mean, literally I was going broke my second year trying to feed my agents who didn't respect all the work and energy that goes into what you have to do to continue to create leads for your team. And so I just had the wrong people at that time. And so as soon as we parted ways, I vowed to never have a team again. So right now, I wouldn't say I actually have a team. It's a husband-wife team, but what we've done is add in agents into our downline in Austin. And so we do referrals with them. They're people I know that I'm not going to have to handhold, and I pretty much can give them business and they're going to close it and they're good. So that's been very helpful to my business. I mean, you can say it's a team, but we're kind of not a team just because we're able to use that real model.
How do you break through this though? So you've given a lead to your downline.
Yeah.
But Jeremy, what happens if that lead refers more business? Like, I'm going to lose that business, right?
You know what? There's so much business coming through my YouTube channel that I don't worry about that. I wouldn't say I don't care. I don't. So those leads that come through, I still have all of their information. So that's one thing that, we do a pretty clean handoff between ourselves and the agent, but we still have all their information because their information came to me first. So we still put them in our CRM tool. We still email them, even though that agent worked with them. I'm not necessarily as worried about it, but it's the same thing as like if you had a team, right? That agent on your team that works with that person is going to be their main lead like their main contact. So it's almost identical to having a team. I mean, is that a worry that you have with your team members?
No. It's just, I hear this all the time. Like,
Yeah.
you know, from other agents, from clients, it's being able to identify your essentially your duty as a team lead is to continue to steer the ship forward by having the right people aligned with you.
Yeah.
And so most people have a very difficult time relinquishing that control, and questions like that pop up quite commonly.
Yeah, no, that I think that's it's definitely fair, but at the same time, when you have like right now our leads are coming through like a fire hose, and so I'm trying to find more people to help facilitate those leads.
Nice.
So I'm not. And here's the other thing: you're not going to be able to work with every piece of business, and that's one thing I learned.
Exactly.
And every single person that comes through, they may not be a fit. I mean, they're coming to me first, and I'm going through and figuring out who to set them up with and who their personality type is. And if they don't fit mine or my wife's personality type, their referrals probably aren't going to fit my personality type too. So that's why I'm okay giving that. And they're still in our downline, right? They're still in our CRM. So we still touch them. So yeah,
nice.
I don't worry about it.
I think that's kind of also the epitome of like having a fixed mindset of like, you know, I need to keep all of this business where like we live in a world of abundance, right? And like you see that firsthand with the amount of leads that come through. So let's dig into YouTube. Let's dig into, you know, I know that you have been on it for a while now, a lot over a year, right? Really, I would say having a concerted effort to YouTube, right? Like you've been doing it for a while, but like over a year of, you know, really putting out a ton of content. You've had lots of different, you know, video types, you know, long form versus live stream versus cut up videos. If I were just starting out today as a new real estate agent, what would be the first video that you would tell me to shoot? Can you hear him?
I can't. I think
so. Before you shoot any content, what I would recommend is sit down and look at who your client base is. Who do you want to attract? That is number one. And then I would tell you to fit a piece of content that fits that. Look, there are so many ways to do this. I mean, if you looked at RETV, so other Facebook groups, RETV, Real Estate Mastermind, other YouTube masterminds, there's so many ways to do content. My content isn't the best for every person and their sphere. So what I'd recommend is first looking at who you want to attract, and one thing for me is I was attracting at the beginning a lot of, clients sub 300. And I realized the content I was doing was pretty much focused on that client base. So I started filling in content that was catered more towards higher end buyers. And all of a sudden, guess what happened? My first $1 million deal came through. Then my first $4 million deal came through. And we're consistently closing $1.5 million, like $4 or $5 million and a half clients a month because we're focusing on that. And then we're pushing some of that other pieces of business to other agents on our team. So just know what your client base is going to be. If you want to just really go after sellers, figure out, I would number one, watch every single YouTube agent out there. Watch my content, watch Katie's content, watch Brad McCallum's content. Every piece of content you can watch, I would sit down and spend a good 3 or 4 hours just watching everybody's content and figuring out what you want to do. That's the biggest thing because, I was doing all these listing videos. I was watching everybody on RETV and they were doing their style and I was trying to replicate that. And my channel wasn't growing at all. And then I made a conscious effort. I talked to a friend and I was like, my channel's not growing. I'm not getting out of this and spending hours shooting these videos. They're fun. And they said, well, you're not giving out any information. Give out information. People want information on YouTube. And so that's where I made a concerted effort to give out information. So neighborhoods to buy in, what builders are doing, what builders you should buy in, what's happening in your city. All of that information is very pertinent to anyone looking to move there. And then I keep getting from people, oh, you don't get listing leads off of YouTube. That is the biggest horse crap I could ever, like I'm getting so many seller leads because now I'm talking to sellers in this market. Like, hey, this market's shifting. If you're a seller, this is really important information. But if you're a buyer, you're going to want to hear this because you're going to be able to take advantage of sellers that are doing this wrong. And so there's definitely ways to cater to both. And as long as you're being very consistent, that's the biggest key thing. And you have to have expensive equipment. It literally, all of my first videos were shot on a cell phone. I got a little lens and a mic, and that's how I shot. And then as I started closing more deals, I bought more expensive stuff. And then I started getting an editor to help me kind of offset some of that. So first bit of content, do what you want to do and see how it works.
Jeremy, can I ask what would you say are the 1 or 2 fatal flaws you see most real estate agents do when starting out on YouTube or trying to execute on YouTube? Because I find there's a large population of realtors navigating YouTube right now. But for someone like you who does it so well, what would you identify as the 1 or 2 kind of fatal flaws or mistakes you see quite consistently among the real estate population on YouTube?
Number one, not being consistent. So putting out a video this week, but not putting one out this week, or you do 3 months in a row and you're like, I'm not getting anything out of this. I give up and I'll do one. I'll take this week off. That is the biggest fatal flaw, because here's the biggest thing I can give anyone that's going to utilize YouTube. There's not like Facebook. If you put a video on Facebook and you put ad dollars behind it, you might get some clients out of it, or at least you get some leads out of it. YouTube, you put out one video on YouTube, no one's going to even see it. I mean, that's the biggest thing. So it takes time, because what happens is once YouTube figures out what your channel is, it'll start putting in front of people who want to see your content. And then, but they don't want to see just one video. They want to click on another video and then another video and then another video. And so you have to have a book of videos for them to see. The second mistake I see most agents make is they start their YouTube channel. I don't have any subscribers, so I have to share this video link everywhere. I'm going to put it on Facebook. I'm going to text it to a friend. I'm going to do this and this and this. I'm going to put these links everywhere. The biggest problem with that is YouTube is trying to figure out what your channel is. And Facebook hates YouTube links on Facebook. They don't want your YouTube links on there. So when you're putting a video link on Facebook and it's in a group of 5,000 agents, and you go, okay, hey, I did this cool video, watch it. Number one, those are real estate agents. They could care less about your video. They're more worried about their videos they're putting in that same exact platform, right? And then YouTube's going to go, well, this video is on a link with 5,000 agents and 8 people watch it for 15 seconds. This video must be garbage. So I would caution you, let YouTube figure out who your base is. If anything, take your channel link and send your channel link out and say, hey, I started this channel. Take a look at it and tell me what you think. Start sending it to all your past clients, your current clients. Do that, because those people are actually searching or thinking about your content. Whereas real estate agents, they don't care. I could put out the coolest video in the world and nobody will watch it unless I was Bob Tompkins and I was rapping and I had a gorgeous man beard. Because when I grow a beard, it's not a man beard. It's definitely not even close. So yeah, so that would be the 2 fatal flaws I would tell most people.
That's awesome. That's amazing. Now, in terms of consistency, you talk about this a lot. I know the 3 of us, we're quite consistent in the content we do roll out. Share with us what consistency, get a little bit more specific if you can on consistency. You talked about, filming this week, but not filming that, the next week. Are we talking 1 video a week, or are we talking 2 videos a week? Like, there's specific days, times that you would recommend?
Yeah. So you're going to need to start putting out videos just to put out videos, right? Because you need that content out there. What I would recommend is pick 4 basic topics of what you want. So, right. So I live in Austin. So I talk about how terrible Houston is compared. I'm just kidding. I talk about, things specific to Austin, neighborhoods in Austin. I talk about builders a lot now. And then I just talk about inventory and what's going on in the market. So I try to keep 4 kind of pillars of content. So that way too, each week you're like, okay, I did a builder video last week. I need to do a neighborhood video this week. and then start looking at the analytics to see what days people are watching. Because some days people might be watching more than others. And you'll see, okay, 2:00 on Tuesdays is when I'm getting a ton of views. So maybe put your videos out on Tuesday around noon, right before that big group of people start looking. Because if you put it out at 2:00, I mean, they're going to be looking at other stuff. They're not going to be looking at the new stuff. So for me, I put all my stuff out Tuesday morning. Now I do one video a week. Once my channel started growing and getting more people's eyes on it and more subscribers, I started doing a live stream. But my live stream, and this is where consistency comes in. There's weeks I was just so burnt out on doing real estate and videos that I was like, forget it. On Tuesday at 7 p.m., I'm just going to do a live stream. So I created this other kind of group of content. And what happened is like, I started like using that as a crutch instead of hiring the editor I needed to, because editing takes 14 hours a week, sometimes maybe more. I started doing this live stream. Well, now I've hired an editor. So I do my one video a week, send it off to the editor. Takes me kind of an hour and a half. I shoot it. I edit it down to what I want. I send it out to him. He adds in all the B-roll and makes me look sexy. I do my own thumbnails, and Katie loves that I airbrush the crap out of my face. So it's like her favorite thing about me.
Can we see one?
Yeah.
Come on. You got to pull one up. Come on.
So now I do that on Tuesdays. I put out my live stream is on Thursdays. And so we actually dubbed it and named it Real Migo. So I have two other agents in Austin. So we talk about Austin a lot, but we'll bring on agents from all over. I've brought on Katie before. I don't think she really added value because she's talking about Houston, and nobody loves Houston except for Katie. See, this is why Katie hates me.
There we go.
Yeah.
Let me see if we can zoom in on these. Hold on.
And then the other thing I do is on Sundays, I'll have my editor cut down some of the clips, and we'll put some of the clips. So we'll take 2 hours of a live stream. We'll cut that down and put out like 2 or 3 clips on a Sunday. So I'm putting out 3 days of content right now, but start with one and work with one. Unless you don't have any business, then do 2 a week. But don't give out too much. You got to be careful about how much content you put out that people aren't watching too.
Okay. That's a really good piece of advice though, right? Like start off with one, build kind of that book or that bank, but also be aware of the fact that if you're putting out more than one and people aren't watching, that could punish you. That could hurt you in the long run as well.
So I think these are 2 good examples of, we've got like airbrush face on the left and then real face on the right.
I mean, they're both just handsome as hell.
I was just going to say that, right? Like that's a tough decision.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Now, I get this question a lot. I do a lot of video content, and people say, do I need to act? Do I need to be energetic? Do I need to kind of come at it with like shooting right out of a cannon, like that type of energy on YouTube? Because YouTube is, as most people know, it's not a social media platform. And social media like Facebook and Instagram, people primarily go there for entertainment value, whereas YouTube is information.
Yeah.
But it's just kind of this predisposition to be like, okay, well, it's video, so then I guess I got to act a particular way. What do you think about that? Because it seems like you're just completely authentic, transparent. You just do you, regardless of whatever platform you're launching on.
Yeah, that's a good one, because like when you're doing specific videos, like let's say you're doing a video about a listing video, right? You have to have a good amount of energy for people to actually watch that video.
Yeah.
If you're doing the content that I do, where it's basically a talking head, where we talk about neighborhoods, talk about this or that, I have a level of energy that I try to bring to the videos just in general. I drink a ton of coffee before, so I'm nice and jittery. No, I don't do that. But, everybody had bourbon. Yeah. Everybody's a little bit different. So what I like to do is, instead of scripting out, I go through and bullet point, and I talk, and I'll write out specific things I want to talk about on those bullet points. And then I sit in front of a camera for 20 minutes, talk. I go through all the bullet points, and then I cut it down from there. So because sometimes you're gonna be talking like this whole video, like 30 minutes in, I probably only said 3 minutes of actually useful information, right? So you got to cut it down a little bit and cut out some of the things. So my videos, I've noticed that my retention time is very high, because I have ADHD and I shoot and I create my videos like I have ADHD. So there's always something happening in the videos and always something, something coming out where it's keeping people's attention. If you hate people with ADHD, then you'd hate my channel.
That's hilarious. Jeremy, being in the industry, boots on the ground, what do you anticipate being, quote unquote, a disruptor, in real estate? Like people, I'm in Canada, so Zillow, we there's really no impact Zillow has up in Canada. I've heard Zillow being just this machine, this monster for many years in the US. You being kind of at the forefront of video and marketing, do you see any disruptors kind of entering that space for real estate or for realtors specifically?
I think what is a problem for real estate agents is all of the iBuyers. And I think iBuyers they fill a specific gap, right? Where agents that aren't going after people that need help with their listing. Because if you think about most people that they do iBuyers, number one, they don't want people to come through their home, or maybe their home isn't ready. So they just give them an offer and then they come in and flip it. I think if more agents actually filled that space a long time, and we had resources where we have, we could help that seller, give them 20 grand to fix up the house to sell. I think that is some sort of a disruptor. I don't think it's the biggest disruptor. Man, I wasn't really prepared for this question, but I would say for me, the iBuyers would be the biggest thing that I've seen. But at the same time, those iBuyers still need buyers, which means they still need agents. And most buyers, for the most part, are, they're becoming more savvy, right? They can pull up all this stuff off of Zillow and Redfin and everything. But when it comes to writing a contract and doing all of that, they still need the help of an agent. So I think the worst thing that I think the biggest disruptor is agents not understanding their worth. That's the biggest. The agents are their own disruptors. I've seen so many people now, and it's a big frustration for me. You look in the MLS and everything is reduced commission. And then you look at a lot of these homes and they're on the market, in a market where things are still super hot in Austin, like 30 days. It's like, well, you did a disservice to your seller by not explaining to them the importance of putting a decent commission in there. I mean, every commission is different, right? It's negotiable. Somebody's going to hit me for that, whatever. I don't care. But I think that's the biggest disruptor. Agents are their own disruptors because they don't understand their worth. And I think if you understand your worth and you can articulate to a client, they're not going to have a question. And I think that's why we do so well on our channel. So why so many leads come through is because I'm constantly giving out information. I mean, somebody on my channel today said, aren't you afraid that virtually I put a comment, or I did a whole video talking about builders terminating contracts. And somebody said, well, this is going to hurt your business by you going after builders all the time. And I go, I could give a crap about my bottom line. As long as I'm giving people helpful information for them to navigate, they're going to see my worth. They might not build with that builder anyway, but that's where I think agents are losing clients, is because they depend on paying Zillow for leads. It's not the worst thing in the world, but not knowing how to get leads and not knowing how to your actual worth, I think is the biggest disruptor. And that's why iBuyers have been so prevalent, and why, these brokerages that, like Open Door and all these other things have been able to come in, is agents don't understand how to get business. And I think that's the biggest problem.
That's powerful. That's the first time anyone's ever really answered that question that way. And I think that, I think we sometimes are our own worst enemy in, what we say and do sometimes. So.
We are absolutely our own worst enemies, Jeremy. I echo everything that you say. I'm a true believer in that. And I think that as a real estate industry, in totality, there's just too many gaps, because we look at other realtors in our marketplace as competitors.
Yeah.
So we want to compete against one another, which leaves us open as an industry to things like Zillow and Redfin and other disruptors into this industry, because we're not we don't work collaboratively enough to create this solidified front. And so again, we leave the doors open with people who have deep pockets to essentially take market share away from us, which I think is good on them for doing that, though, right? But I think as a collective, as realtors, we got to come to the terms to be like, you know what, we got to work together on this.
Raise the bar together.
Exactly.
Yeah.
One other thing too, like I saw the comment because you posted it on Instagram or Facebook or one of them, and I was like, that's like, saying things that may not necessarily be in your best interest as a realtor, but are in your client's best interest to educate them is like the basis of a fiduciary like relationship, right? And responsibility, right? So it's like, that's literally part of, a buyer rep agreement, the code of ethics, and all of these things. And like, people are like, I can't believe you would do that. It's like, well, that's like what we all, signed up for here.
Let me worry about my bottom line. You worry about you. That's basically how I saw that comment. It's like, look, not every buyer is going to want to work with me. Not every builder is going to want to work with me. And if I alienate a few builders by being honest, here's the biggest caveat to that comment. Somebody said, well, are you afraid builders coming after you? No. Want to know why? Because if builders come after me, they are admitting they did something wrong. If I'm calling them out and they come after me, they and I can say, look, this builder's coming after me because I called their BS.
Then so be it.
It's going to make me look even better. So sometimes that's why sometimes you have to get out of your own way and not care about what other people think. And that's hard to do in this business, right? We all care about our egos. We all care about our perceptions. We all care about, getting that piece of business. And I think once you let go the fact that you need every piece of business, you will be better as an agent, because there are so many pieces of business that are not good for you.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. I just
mic drop.
That should be the intro right there. That is sick. That is all wicked insight though, Jeremy. Wicked insight. Yeah. Jeremy. Oh, sorry, Katie.
I was going to say, I have another question, Steve, unless you had another question.
Nope. I think I know what question it is.
Okay. So Jeremy, if it were your last meal on earth, what would you be eating and where would it be? It could be home cooked. It could be restaurant.
I have a feeling it would be eating with you, Katie, because it seems like Jeremy's.
It would be doing one of those lobster boils, not lobster, but crawfish boils at Katie's place. That's what it would be.
Sweet.
Yeah. Katie does lobster all the time too. And I'm like, oh man, so jealous.
I don't have lobster all the time.
Because she's so fancy, Jeremy.
I know. I don't know how to cook lobster. Honestly, it would probably be pizza would be my last meal.
What's your go-to toppings?
It's probably just straight up pepperoni. I'm pretty lame like that. But there's this place in Breckenridge, Colorado that I think is the best pizza. And it's like, it's a bar. It's the best pizza I've ever had by far.
What's it called?
It's called Breckenridge Ale House.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to make note of that.
Yeah. That place is the bomb. I was pleasantly surprised.
Sweet. Amazing. Well, Jeremy, we just want to say thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with us. We did go just a little bit over the 30-minute mark. So we appreciate you being flexible with your schedule. For those who don't know who you are, Jeremy, and don't know where to go to follow you, where should people be going to know more about Jeremy Knight?
I mean, you could follow me anywhere, but Instagram or my YouTube channel, pretty much we do the live streams once a week, and that's always a lot of fun. So just YouTube my name, Jeremy Knight, and you'll find it.
Your Austin realtor.
Yeah, your favorite Austin realtor.
Your favorite realtor. Let's just leave it there.
That's the other thing. Have a good hook. Have a good hook at the beginning of every video. Don't use mine, but have a good hook.
All right, Jeremy. Thank you so much. Really appreciate your time.
Thanks.